So, and I've got, yeah, Christine and Jason on. So welcome to the two of you. And we'll give you a chance.
I have a quick, this is Christine, sorry. So I've been trying to re-access my application for some time now. I'm thinking I could have it open during this webinar, but even prior to that, to get back to it. I keep sending for a new password, but I never receive an email back. Do I need the application open right now? Because I could also always just do it under a different email and restart it if I need to.
You don't need the application open now, and I can actually put a Word version of the application in the chat, if that's helpful.
Oh, that's true. I could download that too. I just,
we have had that problem with other applicants. It seems like some district servers are blocking the SurveyMonkey Apply emails.
Okay.
Yeah, so if
well, mine's actually through Gmail though. I did it through my Gmail.
Is it a personal one?
Yeah.
Oh, then it shouldn't be blocking it. Yeah, do you mind just shooting me an email, and then I can either update your email address on the back end, or we can ask them to whitelist it.
Oh, you know what? I went to, so I don't use my Gmail a lot, but I went to my spam. It's in there.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. For some reason, it's marked as dangerous.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to go for it anyway.
Yeah, I should mention that, though, in an email, because we've had several districts that are blocking the application emails.
Well, I'm gonna place everyone on mute and welcome those that have joined us. So I can see Lindsay Huntsman's joined us, a friend of ours. So welcome, Lindsay, and we'll give you a chance to ask questions a little bit later on. So welcome to our webinar today. I want to let you know how much we appreciate having you join us, especially during these crazy times that we're living through. Couple of housekeeping items. If you look at your control bar at the bottom of the window you just opened up, there's a place where you can go into the chat function. I know Abby's dropped some links there for you to take a look at. You can also raise your hand, and if you've got a question at some point, we can unmute you so that you can ask your question, and we'll definitely have time at the end to answer questions. And then we're also recording this webinar, and we'll post it up on our website for you to review later or share with your colleagues if you'd like. So to share with you who's on our panel today, I'm Clark Merkley, the Executive Director of BootUp Professional Development. We also have Jack Oligas, who is the Senior Program Manager for Amazon Future Engineer, and we'll have her take a few minutes to talk about what they're doing in the K through 16 space to advance computer science education around the world. And then we have Abby Funabiki, who is the Associate Executive Director of BootUp Professional Development. And she'll be taking the bulk of the time today helping those of you on the line that are either looking into or working on applications for the scholarship or sponsorship program that Amazon Future Engineer and BootUp are offering. So just to give you an update, if you've been to our website before, you may have noticed that we had a March 31st deadline originally set because of everything that's been going on in public education and in schools and in the world. We've indefinitely extended that deadline for districts to apply for the sponsorship. And we'll be doing rolling reviews and acceptances of applications. You'll notice when Abby goes through and talks about the application process a little bit later on, there's even a place where you can say, I have an intent to apply on behalf of my district, even though I'm not quite ready to submit an application. And that just lets us know that you're interested and also allows us to send you updates as those come along. So here's the first round of rolling reviews will take place with applications received by the end of this month. And our team of expert reviewers will be taking a look at all of the applications, and you may either be awarded or saved in the applicant pool for future reviews. So if you have any questions at all, you can go to that link for the intent to apply, or to the AFE BootUp at SM Apply link. So a little bit about BootUp Professional Development. We're a nonprofit that's been providing elementary computer science professional development throughout the country. We've been working with school districts for about the last 6.5 years, and started out first as a give back initiative of a for-profit company. And at the end of 2016, we created a nonprofit to continue our work with districts around the country. We're somewhat unique in that we provide a very comprehensive and sustainable program for school districts that includes on-site professional development in the times of social distancing, or when schools are not back in session. We have the capability of doing those professional development sessions online. In fact, this week we did a couple of sessions with a district in New Mexico. The teachers were available to do that, and we were able to deliver that successfully online. The preference is to do it in person at your district, because in addition to providing professional development for the teachers, we also provide coaching and development for a district level instructional coach, or in some very large districts, more than one coach. And in addition to that, we will spend usually a day doing professional development, and the following day will be model teaching, where one of our facilitators will be up in front of a classroom of your teacher's actual students to demonstrate how one of these coding lessons is facilitated with the students. We also provide all the curriculum that you will need. Very often we're called upon by our partner school districts to do some professional development around robotics or physical computing devices the districts may already have. We also help the district form a professional learning community of coding teachers and provide off-cycle coaching and support both to the instructional coach and to teachers. We're really excited that we've partnered with Amazon Future Engineer to take this initiative in many other places in the country. We've done some work in very large districts and some very small districts. And with Amazon Future Engineer's help, we're now able to reach districts with significant needs that have underrepresented or underserved populations. So I'm going to turn a few minutes over to Jack Oligas from Amazon Future Engineer, have her talk a little bit about Amazon Future Engineer.
Thanks so much, Clark. And yeah, like Clark said, I'm a program manager at Amazon, and I lead our elementary programs for Amazon Future Engineer. And I'm really glad to have all of you on the call today so you can learn a little bit more about the program. Our Amazon Future Engineer program officially launched in the fall of 2018. And we are a childhood to career program, and we aim to increase the accessibility of computer science education to students, especially those from underserved and underrepresented communities across the country. Within the K through 12 space, we really try and focus on providing computer science education, teacher professional development, curriculum, and courses to districts and schools across the US. And then in the college space, we provide 100 students each year with $40,000 scholarships, and then they receive an automatic internship at Amazon after their freshman year of college. So with these K through 12 and then college programs, we really try and focus on building out programs that provide opportunities for students to get inspired in their elementary years and really build those 21st century skills, and then have the avenues available to them to persist in computer science through to a career in the field if they choose to do that. So we just really want students to have all of those resources available to them to help them build their best futures, whatever they, determine that to be. So we're super excited to team up with BootUp on this, and we really hope that we can work with all of you in the future on bringing these essential skills to your students. So thanks again for joining today.
Thanks, Jack. And Jack will also be available later on in the session if you have any questions for her. So I'll turn some time over now to Abby Funabiki, who's going to walk through the application process. And once again, if you have any questions, you can drop those down into the chat section, or there's a raise your hand button that you can click on if you have a question, and I'll unmute you so that you can do that. So Abby, go ahead.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys if you are willing to share. So this is just a quick 5-step example of how to apply. Clark, if you want to push the play button, it just gives you an idea of what the inside of the application looks like. And as that plays, so I'm Abby Funabiki. I'm the Associate Executive Director here at BootUp. I get to work with district leadership across the country to help them understand their district and support them with their unique implementation plans for their district-wide computer science programs. So today we're going to walk through the narrative section of the application, which is the place where you have the longest response. So up until that point, it's mostly demographic information from your district. So if you have that on hand, if you don't have that on hand, you can probably grab that from someone at your district. But if you want to jump to the next slide. Okay, so I believe that if you can answer the questions that we're going to go through, then you've basically written your application. So we'll go through some questions. First, I'll talk about priorities. And the purpose of this webinar, again, is to guide the design of your program, which in turn gives you the answers to write in your application. So if you are comfortable, I'd love to hear where you're from and what district you're with, in case we can make the webinar more relevant to you. Is anyone willing to share?
I can share. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
I'm Christine, New York City Community School District 1. So we're located on the Lower East Side. We serve about 20 schools with a majority of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Are there other pieces you wanted me to share? Sorry.
No, that's fantastic. You're the deputy superintendent?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I think we've emailed.
We have, yes.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to have you on here. I've learned, over the last couple of months, I've learned a ton about D1. And I'm really excited that you'll be applying.
Thanks. We're excited too.
Yeah.
I could go next. My name is Jason Trevino. I'm a principal at an elementary school in Central California. We're located right in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Somewhat of a unique situation. We're at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade elementary school. And I did have some questions about that as we got a little deeper, or if we get to another kind of Q&A session. I know that priority will be given to, districts committing a large number of schools, but we're a very, very small district. And essentially we have 2 elementary schools in our district. One is a kinder, 1st and 2nd grade elementary school, while mine is 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And I just didn't know how that was going to work, but we're excited about this. And, my superintendent asked me to take care of business. So here I am hoping that, we can get selected for this, a program like this. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we'll definitely cover that. And just up front, I would definitely apply, especially if you can show that even though you're a small district, that you're providing access equitably across the district.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then Lindsay, I think you just switched districts.
I'm actually back in Park City.
That's what I thought. Okay.
The state just released a competitive grant for approximately $7 million. So we're just looking at different options. We've been doing elementary coding for about 5 years now. It's expanded up into our middle school. So we're in the process of establishing a K-12 pathway. So we've been looking at different platforms and just different options in terms of leveling up our curriculum and making it more robust and rigorous for kids.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay, so to quickly get started, I'm going to go over the main priorities that have been given. So these are very transparent. They're on the application landing page, and this is what we're asking our expert reviewers to use when they're reviewing applications. So priority will be given to districts serving a large percentage of students eligible for free and reduced lunch. If you want to jump back one. Also, districts serving a large percentage of minority students. We use the NCES definition for that. And then the next piece is districts committing to a large number of schools, educators, and student participants. So this would be, yeah, if you just want to jump backwards a couple. So this one is the one that Jason was asking about, because we are factoring in, how many students, educators, and schools are being impacted. But again, this last one, districts committing to district-wide implementation, is also a really important one. So we actually suggest this within the application because it is a way to reach all of our students, all of your students, so that participant demographics do look the same as your district demographics as a whole. So once again, these major priorities are listed on the application landing page at afebootuppd.smapply.org. If you want to jump to the next one, the first narrative question. So this is what the inside of the application will look like, and we'll go through these 5 narrative questions. And I'll ask you questions that will help you basically give you, if you can answer them, the answers to these application questions. So the first narrative question, demonstration of need. So this question, we really want you to focus on your district and the district impact. And you can jump to the next slide. And so in the application, it asks, how will your district teachers and students benefit from participating in this initiative? What computer science support is your district currently providing, if any? So that's where, Lindsay, you'd want to put, what Park City has been up to, and then also, what the current need is, or the need in the future. So for this question, you'll want to include some local context that you should assume we don't know. Maybe a bit about your community, your district culture and vision, and then especially the impact of receiving this sponsorship and what that impact will be on your teachers and students. So the next one just shows you what the expert reviewers will see and gives you an example of an answer to this question. So the left side is what you'll see with the questions. And then on the right side, you can see actually that the expert reviewers will be taking those questions, and that's exactly how they'll be recording their score for that application. So your scores will be taken straight from the application questions that are given to you on the application. Does anyone have questions about that? Okay, well, feel free to jump in. It's a small group. So feel free. Okay, so the next question, the second question on the narrative section is professional development. And you'll notice that, so you'll notice that we've included an example. So this professional development narrative questions should focus on teacher and teacher impact. And if you jump to the next one.
So Jason had a question. I don't know if it was on the prior slide. So Jason, I think I've unmuted you so you can ask your question.
Yeah, just real quick, and sorry.
Please.
I noticed that on the previous slide you had like a sample response there on the bottom left corner. Is there, how would I say this? Some people are really great at wordsmithing and doing really well with compacting their summary. Is there like a requirement of a number of characters necessary? Is short and sweet? What's your recommendation with our responses or narrative?
That's a great question. So we have a 500 word limit, and the goal of that is that so people don't go on and on, so they have to be somewhat succinct. But in my opinion, there's still enough space to be able to tell us what you want to tell us.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, that's 500 words. We specifically ask our expert reviewers, to grade how successful they think the implementation plan will be, not grammar, wordsmithing. But my advice would be as concise as possible and tell us what you think it's important for us to know.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the next slide will show also an example of in the application. We've given our recommendation, we've given a description of what the professional development will look like. If you want to jump to the next one. Oh, okay, maybe I didn't include that one. Sorry about that. So basically, in the application, this is written, but so our professional development will occur through a combination of workshops and in-person model teaching and coaching, and we intentionally spread this out over time. The schedule and when coaching is totally up to you and at your district's discretion. We'll end up providing 8 in-person full-day PDs workshops, and then in addition to that on-site model teaching in front of your teacher's actual students and coaching for each participating teacher. Again, the spacing between those, the scheduling, the location, and even that length. If you want to do 2 3-hour sessions instead of 1 6-hour session, that's all up to you. So to answer this, I've included this first question. Seems like an easy question, but it's not as easy as you'd think. So who will be teaching computer science? And so I've given some examples of things we've seen. This could be your classroom teachers, your specialists during a specialist rotation. We've seen a lot of media specialists or librarians take this on. Because they have, they're able to add it to library time. Also, whoever's already in the computer lab, so maybe that's the computer lab manager, maybe they can start taking this on, or technology coaches, or instructional coaches. And then some factors of why this decision is important is if you choose classroom teachers, remember that's going to be a lot of teachers that will need to be trained, so whether that means you have to take them out of the classroom or incentivize them with stipends, that can be a lot of teachers. So that's why some districts choose to maybe train their specialists or their technology coaches instead of every single elementary school teacher. However, it's also really important to some other districts that they're integrating computer science with other subjects. And in that case, we recommend training your classroom teachers because they're going to be able to integrate during what's already taught in the regular classroom. Some other things to think about. are these educators certified teachers or are they paraprofessionals? Also, how many days of PD are going to be available to them? And then lastly, can they meet as a PLC? They often already are, and we've seen that that really helps build that community culture for that entire school to take on computer science.
So would part of the grant cover their per diem and per session costs for that professional development, or is that something schools are expected to cover?
That's something that schools would be expected to cover. So this is a service-only award. So all of our support is covered by the Amazon Future Engineer sponsorship, but there may be costs as far as substitute teachers, stipends, New York City, the per sessions amount, that sort of thing. Lunches during PD. So yeah, we definitely want to be transparent that there are costs. There could be costs to your district. We've also noticed there are a lot of free ways to incentivize teachers. So that's something to keep in mind. Some of our districts use recognition. So they might recognize their new coding teachers in front of their school board or write an article about them in the local newspaper. And that's been really impactful for the teachers to feel appreciated. Also, some other districts, they'll provide robotics as an incentive. So if you take this PD, we're going to give you a robot. And that's pretty cool for teachers also. So there are a variety of ways to incentivize your teachers. And that's actually one of our questions we ask you later in the application. Does that answer your question, Christine?
It does. I guess just some of my concerns are our schools are very small, which means their budgets are very small. And considering that they're saying right now that will be budget cuts to schools next year, and we have schools that already start out in appeals. Just trying to think of ways around that, or thinking what the expectation is for the number of teachers or the number of days. I mean, we have some professional development days that are available to us. We definitely have some options we can use. But I guess I'm just curious, like, is professional development with, and this is a question I had when filling out the application, is it like one teacher per school gets a day of training, and then those or however many days of training, maybe a day a month or every other month, I'm not sure, and then those teachers provide PD for the other teachers at their school?
Yeah, so that's up to you who you train. But if you did do that one teacher per school model, those teachers would likely take our instructional coach course. And so they could provide PD on their own time to the other teachers. And I should have mentioned earlier, so the program sponsors the support over 3 years. So often we have districts that have Friday afternoons dedicated to PD. So they could fit in a 3-hour PD then where their teachers are already on the clock. So something like that could be an option.
Got it. That's helpful because we have Monday PDs. It's not 3 hours, but that would obviously, we could like tack an hour on or something like that and reduce costs. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So we're very flexible. We trust that you guys know what's best providing PD. So we'll go with whatever model you usually use for PD. And yeah, and I'll continue to brainstorm for what we can do for D1. Because I heard about your giant budget cuts for next year. Okay, so if you want to jump to the next one. Similar, this question may determine the last question, who will teach PD. And so if you answer this can be part of that professional development narrative question answer. Will computer science be taught in a specialist rotation? And that would be by a specialist teacher, a lab teacher, that kind of thing. Or will it be a push-in with an instructional coach pushing into the regular teacher's classroom? Are you going to teach computer science as a standalone subject, for example, in the computer lab, or integrated with the classroom teachers, integrating computer science with maybe some core subjects that teachers are already teaching. Whatever you decide, just be sure to explain it in the professional development section of the application.
Have you experienced which model has been the most successful in your experience?
It's a good question. I haven't seen a big difference between when it's taught. What we've seen is that when computer science is taught regularly, 45 minutes or more a week, that's when we've seen the biggest jump between in student outcomes and attitudes. So however you can get computer science taught in a regular way.
Okay.
So that often ends up being a specialist rotation, just because that's a weekly way to catch every single student without adding a ton onto your classroom teachers. Because asking classroom teachers to teach computer science once a week is definitely doable, and we have seen that, but it's a lot to ask.
Thank you.
Yeah, so whatever you think would work best. Also the teachers, you know, if your library media specialists are really gung-ho for technology and information sciences, they might be a good fit. So all of that is something to take into account. And then please just go ahead and explain, you know, why you've chosen that group.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, and then the next piece is mandatory or voluntary. You know, so will that professional development be mandatory for teachers? And then will it be mandatory for those teachers to implement it in their classrooms? And going back to your question, this is actually where we've seen a big cutoff for our more successful programs, is when they do actually make it mandatory to implement in their classroom. You know, so getting the teachers to teach that first coding lesson is a huge step. And so if they're kind of forced to do that, then all of a sudden they realize they can do that and they continue to do that. So that's been a kind of a make or break thing that we've seen. Similar to this question is, can you pay or incentivize your teachers? So that goes back to Christine's question. Can you provide stipends? Can you give them a robot? Do you guys have any other ideas that you're willing to share about how you can do this at your district? Obviously, ideally would be to compensate a teacher for their time, but we totally understand that's not doable everywhere. And I think Park City, I think they actually have added teaching computer science to their ed tech's plate. And so they actually are compensated for teaching those classes and meeting as a PLC and that sort of thing. And then we've done other ones where it's not required and there is no stipend, but they find other ways. Okay, and Lindsay says correct. Okay, so the next question in the application is where you'll focus on your implementation plan. So this is implementing the program with your students. So these responses will focus on students and the student impact in the classroom. So if you want to start with your answer to the earlier question, when will computer science be taught? Go ahead and say that again. You know, computer science will be taught in the computer lab during specialist rotation, or computer science will be taught during social studies, core, you know, in the regular classroom as a core subject. And then also mention again whether that implementation is going to be mandatory or voluntary for teachers to implement. So in some cases, if you want to jump to the next slide, we've recommended, provided recommendations in the actual application. So going back to what I was saying earlier of the consistency, when we've seen these things, we've added them to the application. So some of components of successful initiatives we've seen, we've shared them, and they're listed as recommendations under where you'll input your response. And so these recommendations are either based on external evaluations of our programs or components that we've just seen anecdotally lead to more successful implementations. It's important to remember that none of these recommendations are a requirement. That's why we've included them as a recommendation and not just a feature of the program. We just believe that they contribute to a successful implementation, and they may be used by reviewers in their rubric for scoring. So that's why you'll want to check these out. If you want to jump to the next one, I think I've listed, okay, sorry. You can jump back. Thanks, Clark. So one of these implementation suggestions is that providing computer science instruction during the school day is a strategy to ensure all students participate. So this one, Jason, you might want to focus on in your response to show that you are reaching all of your students. The next one, the practice and consistency of weekly instruction has led to the biggest gains from both teachers and students. So improvements in students' computational thinking aptitude, as seen on our evaluations after the program has ended, has been higher for teachers who teach coding, Scratch or Scratch Junior with their students for at least 45 minutes a week. So again, that's our recommendation. So getting as close to that as possible is helpful. And then the last recommendation is that a ratio of at least one device for every 2 students is recommended. And again, we know that can't happen at all schools, but so that's just our recommendation. So make sure to include the answer to this next question. Which students will receive instruction? So again, this is within the implementation plan narrative question. You'll definitely want to answer this. So CS for all, is your program truly computer science for all? Think about, who are we missing? Are we missing our students in special education? Are we only providing this for gifted and talented students, and therefore we're missing all the other students? So sort of think about that. A strong application will include an equitable implementation plan. And you'll just need to explain how that plan works with your district. And one way to explain that is to show that the demographics of the participants match the demographics of the district. So Jason, you mentioned that your specific school is, I think, 3rd through 5th grade. And so, we'd love it if the K through 2nd grade elementary school also participated, but if for some reason they weren't, you could just show, we're implementing this across 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So our demographics of participants will match those of our entire district, even though we may be not doing every single grade level. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. We really try to focus on reading and things like that in those lower grades, and then we start to focus more on, expanding more than just the core subjects here. We do have like a art/STEAM, I guess you could call it a class. And so that's one of the things or areas I'm thinking of trying to implement this, but,
Definitely.
and then our junior high has like a STEM center that they just built last year. So I'm really going to focus on talking about how, they can kind of get what they get here at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then how we can continue to sustain that at the junior high and high school level with some of the academic pathways and things that we have part of our district.
Awesome. Yeah, and those junior high teachers are welcome to join the PD if they want to see what's coming their way.
Great.
Okay, so the next narrative question is focused on instructional coaches. So these instructional coaches, they're going to serve as the main contact between BootUp and your teachers. So we provide, included in the sponsorship is an online instructional coach course. So our goal is that after the 3 years that we can step back and this instructional coach will eventually be responsible for championing the initiative and ensuring that progress continues after the award is over. So this means if there's teacher attrition, this instructional coach will train new teachers. They're also going to go above and beyond what we've helped with and probably explore new curricula, new integration ideas. And so this is a really important role. So I think the next question is who will champion your program? Who can be this instructional coach? Most importantly, do they have time? So this person often is a person who's already taken on, 5 other initiatives. So make sure this person has time and that you explain that they have dedicated time for this in your response. So don't assume that we'll know that they have time based on their title or something. And then ideally, the question is, can you pay them for that time? So we've had larger districts commit 1.5 FTE just to championing the Computer Science for All implementation. But on the other side of the spectrum, at smaller schools and districts, we've seen schools that encourage a lead teacher or 2 that only have a couple hours extra a month end up championing the program. So there's a big spectrum of who could do this and how much time they can commit to it. Just go ahead and explain that in your answer. So if you can just answer these 2 questions in that program, I think it would be a strong response. Again, our recommendation would just be that you find someone who has dedicated time to be able to champion this. Okay, so the last narrative question in the application, again, just as a reminder, each of these narrative questions have a 500-word limit. And if you basically just answer the questions written in the application, or you're welcome to watch this again and answer them as we go through them, I think you'll have a strong application. So in this next section, you'll just provide a summary of how you'll sustain this initiative once the 3-year award has ended. So something we've included in the application is how we've tried to make this sustainable on our end. So we use all free open source coding platforms. Scratch and Scratch Junior are free. And then we use our free project-based curriculum, again, which is free and will remain free. And therefore, we don't think there are any significant costs to support your teachers as they implement these projects in their classroom year after year. So we think that's really important. You're not signing up for a subscription or anything. And then also to support sustainability, if you would mention any support you have from your district, your teachers, even your community, we think that goes a long way to show the sustainability of your program. So please include that if possible. One predictor of success is family influence on students' attitudes. So we've suggested if there is a way to garner teacher, family, or community support, maybe that's something you can take on. We've seen yearly family coding nights as a way to involve families, or other ways, to get families or other teachers who aren't participating, or principals or school board members, to learn some coding through introductory activities. Again, that's a recommendation, so that's listed in the recommendation section of the application. Okay, so that's the narrative section of the application. I'm hoping that some of these questions have sparked either an answer or a vision for how you might run your program. And then if anyone is willing to share maybe those thoughts of how they are thinking about going about this, I'd love to hear. Oh, the free coding programs, great question. So the free coding programs, our curriculum is totally free, and we add projects to it each year, and we'll continue to. And so that's at bootuppd.org/curriculum. And that's totally free. You don't even have to sign in, which is a big plus that our teachers have appreciated. And then the other free programs that we train on are Scratch and Scratch Junior. And those were developed by MIT and are available to everyone, open source. So again, that's Scratch and Scratch Junior. And they're very open-ended coding platforms. Yeah, so we definitely recommend those. And it's what our curriculum focuses on. So does anyone want to share any of their thoughts for how they're thinking, who, when, where this might be taught?
So our goal, this is Christine again. So our goal is really to have, you know, and I think this remote learning period has highlighted this especially. Our goal is to have all kids experience computer science on some level. I would say all of our schools have a computer lab, and at a minimum probably 2 kind of sets of laptops. Now, how they're used varies, you know, widely. We do have a lot of kids who use online learning programs like IXL and things like that. Again, we want to move to more relevant integration of computer science. And so, I mean, we have 20 schools, so of course it's, you know, it'll vary. We have some schools that have a computer lab that's a specialty period. And then we have other schools, again, where they're getting kids to use computers in different ways in the classroom. So we hope to have some of our stronger schools kind of lead the way in terms of what possibilities are. While this remote learning period is not ideal, I think it really we have teachers already, right? We have remote PLCs happening where some of our stronger technology teachers are supporting our other teachers and how to create platforms and make them accessible and make them engaging and how to work with different groups of students. So there has been that benefit that we hope to continue, and even our device, right? Because all of our students who requested devices received devices, and then those will go back to the schools, and our local officials really want to support device access right now too, because we know that this really highlighted a lot of the inequities across our system.
Yeah.
So I think the good thing that will come out of it is that, again, more one-to-one and more integration of technology naturally. Because we are seeing some kids who were disengaged in regular school, and now with the option of doing their work on a computer and having the choice of when to do it, and maybe having some other options of task choice, those kids are really thriving, you know.
Oh, so, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing some different things, and then we're seeing kids who aren't, you know, proficient with technology, whose families aren't proficient with technology, and you know, and who already struggle in school and are struggling further. So it's not all you know, it's not all great, but there's definitely some learning that we think it will help us as we move forward. So again, our goal is to get computer science integrated across our classrooms, and this remote learning period has kind of been a good launch. You know, and yeah, so that's our plan.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. And I guess my suggestion for sort of a big sort of messy implementation plan with different schools wanting to do different things might be, we are starting our first review process with applications submitted by the 30th. So if your program is awarded, it might give you time to really sit down with those schools to try and plan out what they want to do. So I guess that might be a suggestion for dealing with the different schools and the different schools that have different plans.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How much of the actual activities and practice can be done without the support of the teacher per se? Basically, can the kids log on for, let's say, 30 minutes on their own during free time at school or after school or at home? Can you provide a little bit of insight on that at all?
Yeah, I think they definitely need that facilitation time. So our PD and what we encourage the teachers to do is not lecturing at all. So it's facilitation. That being said, I think that facilitation and guided questions is important. So definitely to get started, I think the classroom setting with the facilitator facilitating with the students is super helpful. The cool thing about our curriculum is that it's interest driven and super open-ended. So we often see students take a project that maybe takes one student, 2 weeks to complete to their satisfaction. Someone might spend an entire semester, making that project go on, and getting deeper and deeper. So we definitely see students that do take it home and work on it or work on their projects during free time, and they don't need that direct facilitation. But they've usually started the project in the classroom with that facilitator.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing, like, are kids only going to be restricted to the amount of class time that's provided for them to actually work and experience this? Or are they going to have an opportunity to jump on at home? Or, we do like we have a guided reading opportunity, and teachers are pulling back a small group of students who might be struggling with reading. Well, during that time, some of the more advanced students have 2 or 3 options. Do they want to write? Do they want to read? Do they want to, do computer science? And so that's kind of why I was asking to see if that would be part of an accessible opportunity for our kids throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see a lot of students really go deep, lean into this subject. Okay, well then I'll just we'll definitely take more questions for Clark, Jack, and I'm happy to answer more questions. I just quickly want to say that I've seen pretty much any kind of district take this on and be successful. So you can definitely do it, and this sponsorship provides all of our support at no cost. So I definitely think that you each can implement district-wide computer science. So any other questions before we take off?
Great.
No, thanks everybody. I have another call and have to hop off, but I really appreciate your time. That was super helpful.
Okay, good, Christine, and I'm happy to talk with any of you guys more if you just shoot me an email.
Great. Thanks, everybody. It's great to have you join us today. And thanks again, Abby, for leading us through that process.
Thank you. All right, take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Thank you.